Welcome to Picks with the Presser. We're back here on Thursday. Unfortunately, it is just me as Cousin Jared is only able to join us on Mondays, but I will do my best here. Just as an introduction, it's a little bit different in person. The chat's going to look a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit harder for me. Things are going to be a little bit wonkier without my assistant here. So bear with me. But please let me know if things are going well or off the rails, or if you can't hear me for whatever weird reason, because we've had audio issues. I think y'all can hear me now, so I think we're good. But either way, just kind of an FYI on that. We might have some noises in the background as well. Nothing we can do about that, but we'll try to make it through. And now we will get to it like usual. Again, it's Thursday. Today is May 22nd, 2025. And if you need baseball bets, you are watching the right show. This is Picks with the Professor, player level data. All right, so some quick reminders here about the model. Again, player-based model, ratings reflect the current roster. Average grade's 100. Higher implies more runs. We are projecting an average game, of course, except for one game where we've got 9 games today, but actually we've probably got 8 because I don't think one of them is going to happen. So that one we are projecting any game, to be honest. But we say percentages, right? We understand that we're going to lose a lot. We're going to win a lot. But we can win more when we win than we lose when we lose. If we understand the concept that anything is a good bet at the right price, remember what we do here is try to figure out what that is. And the model doesn't necessarily guarantee us that, but it does try to put us in the right direction. Real quick here before we get to it, if you are not with us over on Dub Club, folks, if you're not with us on Dub Club, everyone over there already has the updated notes, the updated sheet, so they can follow along with this. Rather than just listening to all of it. So huge benefit to being over there, and again, you get your first month for half off and all the extra bits, all the picks every day, all sorts of good stuff. I can't even tell you all of it. I just need Cousin Jerry back here to explain it because he probably sells it better than I do. Link in the show description. I'm the terrible salesman. I just want to get to it. Let's talk baseball. Rangers and Yankees. We're going to start off here at 12:30 p.m. Eastern, looking with some really strong winds blowing in. This is going to be, a pitcher's paradise here in Yankee Stadium. A park that is misclassified often as a hitter-friendly ballpark. Now, it can be home run friendly. It can be a little bit more friendlier depending on if you're right-handed or left-handed. It can be a little friendly in the summer when it's hot and the wind's blowing out. But you see a lot of games in Yankee Stadium where it's not. Now, so far this year, that's been not most of the case. The Yankees offense has been one of the better ones in baseball, of course. The torpedo bat thing, that was all the rage for the first month of the season that I guess no one's talking about now. But when you have a day like this, it's going to be really tough for the offense to score runs, even when as good as the Yankees. And that's the thing, is that the Rangers offense hasn't looked that good. And these two pitchers have looked really, really good. Both of them almost finding their old form here a little bit with regards to, two guys that have been up and down, been injured a little bit, but look really strong here so far. Evaldi, of course, that sparkly 161 ERA, but folks, the underlying metrics there put him in the low to mid twos. I mean, he's having a fantastic season and quickly rising. If he keeps this up, he's going to be a top 10, top 5 pitcher this year, early Cy Young, dark horse kind of thing. I'm not sure he can do it for the whole season, but so far it's been amazing. Carlos Rodon, maybe not quite as sterling, but just solid 3.17 ERA. We are up to 60 innings, so it's starting to be a little bit more meaningful. Probably not overall. That's why we still look at the underlying metrics, and that's where it lines up, though. 361 FIP, 328 xFIP. You're talking about a guy that, just kind of slow and steady. Seems like he's found it again. I like both these pitchers. I like this weather. We locked in last night the under 7.5 as an A grade. It was minus 120. That was one of our top plays. Now the total's at 7. Everyone's realized this weather. Right now, there's just not much value on it. We had it at 6.8 last night. We've got it at 7 now. Either way, I think under 7.5 is a good play because we think 7 is the most likely outcome. But now the line's 7, most of the value's gone. And the same thing with 7.5 and super juice, though, right? The problem is if the main line's 7 and you go find a 7.5, you're probably laying something. I'm just gonna make something up, minus 130 or minus 1, whatever. And that's tougher too. So if you haven't played it yet, unfortunately, there's not a lot of value left in the total. You can sprinkle on it if you want, kind of trust the line movement, so to speak. I know some people kind of buy into that theory. I'm happy with the under 7.5 we got. Love it. At 7, it's sprinkle under or pass, but mainly because, again, the weather, wind blowing in, temperatures will be about 50 degrees. But there's another angle on this game, too. We played it last night. It's still an A grade this morning. That's the Yankees. I mentioned this here. The models really love the Yankees and the Dodgers, and I looked into it, and I can't quite figure out anything that's wrong or off. It all seems to line up, and just what I'm kind of seeing here is the model's just really looking at the Dodgers and the Yankees offenses as just elite relative to everybody else. And I think you're probably seeing that a little bit because like the Braves offense fell apart. The Astros offense is like mediocre now, which is kind of weird to say after all these years. The Rangers, like we see here, have been an offense that's sometimes been really good. And you end up with like the Mariners as one of the top offenses and the Tigers as one of the top offenses. And I think the idea is that there's still a gap between those two and those top ones. So the model's liking the Yankees and Dodgers. It didn't work mostly for the Dodgers here recently, and they're a little skid. But if you've been with us a little bit on the Yankees as of late, it's gone a little bit better. And that's what we're playing today. It's minus 155 right now. That is still an A grade, the A grade threshold, minus 177. So you've got lots of wiggle room in determining how you want to play this. I personally don't love run lines at home, especially in low-scoring games. I'm not touching the run line. I'm not touching the -1. It is it's money line. If you need to do a two-teamer, there's another afternoon game here that you can pair it with. I'm personally comfortable slaying minus 150 because Jared always talks about, starting with the 2 is his level. I'm probably a little bit more conservative than that. I really don't minus 190s, minus 180s, minus 150, minus 155. We're firing away on the Yankees. It's an honorable mention. So if you were with us last night and you got the good number, we got 2 plays here starting off at 12:30. Hopefully we can get things going, starting off in the right direction here on Thursday. Padres and Blue Jays starting right after that, 1:07 p.m. Stephen Kolek and Bowden Francis. Kolek's a guy who came up as a prospect, highly regarded because he was throwing, 102 or whatever in high school. And it's kind of taken him a while, I feel like. It was a long time ago. I remember him as a hyped high schooler. And he's finally made it and looking really good. All that patience has finally paid off for a guy that we knew had the talent and has finally gotten through all the injuries and gotten there. 89 grade, number 30 starting pitcher. I mean, he's got to be thrilled. His parents got to be thrilled. His significant other, if he has one, has got to be thrilled, right, with how he's come along. And that's going to be the big edge in this game for the Padres. It's Bowden Francis, not a very good pitcher, a guy who probably shouldn't really be starting for a contending team. If we call the Blue Jays contending, I don't really know if they are or not because every division is confusing, right? Like, especially the AL. Right, the Orioles were supposed to be good, and then they're terrible. And then you had the whole weird AL Central, the Tigers with the best record, and then the Mariners are like have all their pitchers injured that are still winning the AL West. Anyway, that's the big difference. Kolek versus Francis, and that's why we're on the Padres. We played them last night here at minus 114 as an A grade. Unfortunately, this morning the current price is out to about minus 125, and it's another situation where you're probably going to be missing out on a little bit of that value now at that price. Model says the A grade threshold for the Padres now is actually down to minus 104. So it's actually a little bit less friendlier to him than it was last night. This is a situation where I want to explain, and Cousin Jerry talks about this a lot. This play at last night's price with this morning's update based off of whatever happened last night, injuries, it's all coded and automated. So I don't know if someone got called up or a guy threw too many, whatever. I don't know the specifics, but it's just a subtle difference after running everything this morning. And that subtle difference would now make last night's price a B grade. But that's why we like the A grades more than the B grades right there. It's because the B grades are closer to what the model thinks is break even. So if anything changes, all of a sudden we've got just a meh play. And now anything changed. And so because we took an A grade on the Padres, what we have a situation where we thought it was an A grade. It's actually a B grade. That's okay for us. But had we played a B grade and it dropped, now it would be a C grade and the value's gone. So I would say Padres, if you have to, it's Padres or pass. I don't love playing bigger minus odds there. I like it closer to the minus 110. That's where I'm looking for it to get. It's going the wrong way for now. So it's kind of one of those, if you already had the Padres, I like it. If not, this is the angle where I'm going with a two-teamer. And the reason I say it is I like to put the two-teamers at the same time slot. Otherwise, you should just do individual bets. There's no real mathematical edge to it. And so you're just doing it for funsies. And I don't like to do anything gambling for funsies. I like to do things for purposes and strategic reasons. Not to say it always plays out, but at least I feel like I've put my best foot forward instead of just doing something. This is what I would look at here. If you already played the Padres and you already played the Yankees, I'd be looking at a two-teamer for just a sprinkler for fun or not even doing it at all. I'd really be looking more at the two-teamer here. If you missed the better price in the Padres, if you got the Padres minus 115 or I think I was on like no vig last night and got something like -113 or something even better, right? If you get or -110 or whatever, if you get something better, great. If you didn't though, the -125 or so on the Padres, -130 on the Padres, and then the minus like 155 on the Yankees, that would probably be a two-teamer. I'd probably go lighter on that because the prices aren't great, and so we don't want to invest too much at bad prices. But it could be a slight positive EV situation, and a light slate could be worth a little bit, but it's not going to be anything that we go hard on. So for the most part here, my afternoon summary, if you got with us last night, you got 3 plays. I'm happy with them. I'm really not doing anything else personally. If you missed out, we still like the Yankees. I'd go hardest on the Yankees. If you had to dabble, maybe under in the first game, maybe Padres, maybe a Yankees-Padres money line. But if you missed out, the value's a lot less there today. Thankfully, there's still some opportunities here in the late afternoon slot. So at 3:10 p.m. Eastern, we finish up the Phillies and the Rockies. Oh boy, the Rockies. Worst offense in baseball, according to Sideline and probably most people. German Marquez was a revelation for them for years, and then the injuries, and he has been terrible. The relievers aren't the worst in baseball, so there we go. We can say that about the Rockies. Otherwise, folks, it's rough. We officially passed on this game last night, and I don't think that's the craziest strategy. So here's the other thing too. If you're with us last night and you got some of those plays and you have a little bit more, like I do here in the earlier slots, I'm probably passing on this game. I'm probably like, you know what? I've got some good money invested this afternoon, and I just don't want to mess with this game. If you're looking to mess with this game, and I know there's a lot of you out there, that's fine. I respect that. I get it. Hey, between you and me, right? 305 comes along, you might get a little bit, okay, right? We've all been there. The way to play this game, unfortunately, is the same way to play this game that we've been talking about all series and all season for the Rockies, which is that the edges are on the under in the Rockies. That doesn't mean that's smart, and that doesn't mean it'll win. What it means is when a team is as historically bad as this, and we see this in every sport every so many years, most of the time they revert back and become just very bad. And they're not this bad for the whole season. We see this a lot where these short spurts, and then this is regression to the mean, right? In a way where it's like, they start playing a little bit better because they can't play any worse. We still haven't seen that, and it keeps going on. And so, the shorter the down spell is, where you think there's value, the more you could just be like, you know what, I'm just going to trust the math here. But the longer the Rockies keep playing like this, I don't know. I just don't like messing with it. That's just me personally. Here's if you want to mess with it, right? Under in the Rockies would be the way to go. Under 11.5 is an A grade according to the model. The model says 10.6. It's an A grade only because of kind of the way I've set this up, and I do need to do some more coding, and I haven't yet because really Coors is the only field that this matters for. I probably should increase a little bit of the threshold and make it less of a linear difference between the two runs, and I don't want to get too deep in the woods here, but long story short, if I were to actually do this, which is on my to-do list to do it right here, the other 29 parks, it's the same. It doesn't really change much, but this one it would. And if I were to do it right, I would actually make the A grade threshold to the total proportional to like the divisor of how many runs we have. So more runs, less confidence. So it says A grade. I don't really love it because, as anything can happen in Coors. Rockies plus 1.5 is plus 170. That's plus 170. They can still lose and you win. The White Sox were like this last night, and I said the White Sox might make sense. Money line or run line didn't. I didn't really say. I was just, if you split, you split there at least. They lost by 1. I'm not touching it, but I just don't have the spine for it. But I think you should pass. But it's Rockies or under, and I think a lot of your sharps are probably going to be saying the same thing. And I just don't think we have to all jump off the same bridge. I think we can just ignore it personally. So that's my take. Angels and the A's will wrap us up for the afternoon slate, 3:35 p.m. Eastern. And I don't really know what else to say about this park and the overs. We did miss it on Monday, but as Barry, one of our loyal followers, pointed out over on Discord, that he listened to what we said on the show about the weather in that game. Took the first 5 over that hit, the full game over loss, but then the full game overs been kind of coming through for us so much there. There's really no reason to stop until it stops, I think, or until the model just says, whoa, it's really overreacted. It hasn't happened yet. I don't see it happening. We had last night a top play over 10. at minus 106. That was an A grade. We would lean A's last night at minus 148. Folks, here's the thing. It was minus 148 last night. Today, you wake up and it's A's minus 125. So if anybody's wanting to, I think add some money on the A's. It makes a lot of sense. I really like Severino. I think he's the better pitcher here. I don't even think it's really close. The A's have the better relievers. I think they've got the better bats. They're not top 10 anymore, unfortunately, but they are still top half, which I still think is pretty impressive because, as we said at the start, we knew they probably wouldn't be that good. And on top of that, we knew that some of those big numbers would be kind of pulled apart eventually when we realized that stadium was hitter friendly. So still being top half, still pretty good. So I don't think it's crazy to play the A's. The A grade threshold, the A's, minus 133 is the threshold for that. And again, it's minus 125 right now. No problem adding more to that if you feel like it. I think it's definitely worth a look, worth a sprinkle, worth a half unit at minimum, even if it's not an official play, because last night it wasn't quite a good enough price. But thank goodness we waited, because we just saved 23 cents. I mean, we talk about saving 5 cents, 10 cents. Ooh, 23. That's a lot of cents there, folks. Unfortunately, right now the total is 10.5, and the model says 10.6. So I would take this as last night at 10, getting the push protection on 10 was a top play. Love it. Max bet, whatever that is for most people, which again, for most people, I think should be about 2 units. Should never be more than 2 for most people in most situations, right? That's your biggest play. A unit and a half probably for most people would be plenty, right? If you haven't played it yet, I think you should still play it. I don't think we get off this train, even if the model says there's no value. I just think we played a little bit less, understanding that we might not have quite the edge we hoped. And so we just don't want to go too heavy on it in case that half run matters, that push protection matters, because it's going to matter sometimes. And in this case, I want to be a little bit lighter on it in that case. So I'm playing over 10.5. I'm playing it just a little bit more scaled back. And again, feeling free to add the Athletics in as well. First, the Pirates, the only game without a line as of this moment officially, because we have not confirmed. I believe it's Savali for the Brewers. I had this as Carlos Rodriguez last night. Now we have Savali. The tough part about this, folks, if you're watching this live, I really hope in the 30 minutes or 45 minutes since I did this research that nothing's changed. If you're watching later, you might know something different than I do. I was fortunate, but the most recent information I had, and if someone's in the chat right now and knows something different, obviously, let me know about this one and one other one later. But they skipped his rehab start on Tuesday in AAA. It was the last I'd heard, and it was like the speculation was, well, that's because he's going to be needed in the majors. Maybe they skipped it because some other reason. Maybe it is. I have no idea what's happening with this one. I don't really know if it matters a ton between the two. We had Rodriguez as a 115 and Savali as a 119. And I think if it's a bullpen game, I think it's going to be about the same. So, folks, what I'll tell you about this game is there should be a lot of chaos as to what's happened to the Brewers, I think, unless, of course, again, someone's watching this now and they've just announced it, right? And they know whatever. Then y'all could just laugh at me. But I don't really think it matters who start for the Brewers. I think you kind of handicap this game the same either way. I think it's going to be about the same rounding year. Brewers have the better offense by far, mainly because the Pirates' offense is only one of the worst of the Rockies. Mike Burrows for the Pirates, a little bit of a younger guy, not young, not like Skeen's young, but nothing really much to say. I mean, not great pitching, average relievers. I mean, this is going to be a ho-hum game that if there were more than 5 games on tonight, probably 4, you'd skip it. But as it is, slightly in Pirates, total projecting at about 8.2. This is a tougher situation. And I talked about this recently on the Discord. Historically, everything with baseball betting has been about starting pitching dependent. That's been the way it worked with sharp betting and sharp books. That's how it all originated. And so that's kind of the old school mindset that I have. And now Circa's maybe one of the only places I think that wants to default to that. And not I can't even play at Circa because they're only in 3 states. They're a neighboring state, but I don't get there often. And BetOnline still has it as an option, but you can select either way. Even BetUS, which I wouldn't have said was necessarily the sharpest book in the world, but I would have said is more towards that at least, especially relative to domestics, because most of the domestics are ridiculous. They're just default to action now. So you just got to be careful about that. If you're still at one of these random places like that, if you're at an action place, I don't think it matters. And a lot of those places already have lines out there. And so pulling that up right now real quick, just to kind of see, I'm seeing Circa does have Milwaukee at minus 122. The A grade threshold for that would be plus 108. So that's obviously not very good. And then for the Pirates, you got plus 110, the A grade threshold of the Pirates plus 118. So it'd be lean Pirates. You need another dime before the model says to play it. And honestly, with the Pirates, folks, I need an A grade and I need a happy A grade to play it because I just don't have any faith. Total's 9. So this is where it gets interesting here. Do you want to play the under? I don't think it's crazy. You are having to pay maybe a little bit of juice depending on where you are. I think Caesars, I see a minus 110 out there. That's not a bad look. In my opinion, the model says 8.2. I don't really trust either one of these offenses. In general, I think the relievers are being better than the starters actually bodes well for the under because I think that means the starters are going to have a little bit of a shorter leash. They're going to be told a little bit go harder. I think the under makes a lot of sense. Definitely one that I'll be looking into probably as kind of a full unit play. Again, it won't be official because nothing outside of what's the overnight is official, but one that I think probably would be worth our look. That's 640. There are 4 games supposed to start at this time slot. Another one here, Guardians, Tigers. We locked in this last night. The under 8 as an A grade. Top play at minus 112 model says it should be 7.5. Update model says 7.4. A little bit of a wind out, but a cool night. It's going to still make it more pitcher-friendly ballpark. Already was a pitcher-friendly ballpark. Already have pitcher-friendly setup with 2 better-than-average pitchers. The Tigers' offense being top 10 could be a little bit of a concern, but there's just a lot of things to like about an under here with the Guardians and their offensive struggles, with Flaherty being still pretty solid. Bybee maybe a little bit more, disappointing if you're a Guardians fan this year from what you were hoping for. But I still think he's a good pitcher, even if we kind of were expecting him to be more in the 80 grade. The numbers aren't great either for him, but I still think that he's a decent enough pitcher. Of course, that's not my concern. It is him. I know that Flaherty's ERA is a little bit higher, but the underlying metrics are fine there. I still think Flaherty's going to be fine. And against the Guardians offense, there's really not much to worry about. The concern is going to be, while the Guardians relievers are good, they've taken a clear step back from before. A lot of that obviously is Class A. Bybee's taking a step back. The Tigers offense taking a step forward. The easiest way this game loses. I think we lost an under yesterday. That was like 3-2 in the ninth. So the easiest way this loses is it's 3-2 in the ninth. It goes 3-3 and then extras happen. But the other way that you can see this loses, of course, is Bybee just gets shelled. And the Tigers offense is good. And it kind of turns into a rout. And that is, of course, possible. So that's what we want to protect against a little bit. You could split your bet between the full game under and then the Guardians team total under. That would be kind of the approach I would have if I was concerned about that. In general, I tend to trust the model on these A grades. So I'm playing the full game as a top play, my normal play, and then I'm doing a half onto that Guardians team total under because I like that more because I think they're going to have a harder time scoring here tonight than anybody. And so you never know one game, but that's kind of the way I'm personally playing it. And the model would lean Tigers this morning at a price of minus 138. Unfortunately, since it thinks the price should be minus 140, that's really not enough value, I think, to mess with. If the price continues to come down, or if you're just, not feeling the Guardians, I think it's Tigers or pass. I don't think that's a bad way to play it. I don't think it's a bad way to sprinkle it. And it kind of aligns with the Guardians team total under idea. So I think we're kind of aligning in that same way. Be careful, viewer. We want to make sure we do is we just don't want to end up with like 5 units on this game, because then kind of like one thing can happen that we didn't foresee and you can lose all 5. So just be careful with that, with how many things you're doing. If you're doing Tigers money line and Guardians team total under and the full game under and the first 5, I don't know, whatever, just be careful about what's correlated is all I will say there. Also here in this right before 7 p.m. Eastern time about the Braves and the Nats, rematch of what would have happened yesterday if it wasn't for the rain. AJ Smith, Shawver, and Trevor Williams, 2 very average pitchers, but the real difference comes in the bullpens, where the Braves bullpen good, Nats bullpen mostly terrible, other than Kyle Finnegan at this point. And of course, offensively, this is a mismatch. It should have been a bigger mismatch coming into the season. And that's why we've only got the Braves at 53%, which might surprise some people, but I don't know what to make of the Braves this year anyway. They're just kind of been a very weird team as it is. We're on the Nats. I think, I see why market is leaning more Braves. It's the Braves. They're still a good team. It's the Nats, right? I get it. I think the price is just a little bit too high, though. This Nats offense, the gap between the Nats offense and the Braves offense, I mean, it's there, but I just, at home with an even starting pitching matchup, the plus odds, it's worth a play. Do I love it? Is it my favorite? No. We had this yesterday, and it would have been the same thing. I was playing it. Last night, we played it at plus 120, or 2 nights ago, plus 129, it's plus 136, or I don't know, would have been plus 138, and now it's all in the same plus 130, plus 140. I think it's worth a look. I'm not doing first five officially, mainly at this point, because I wanted to focus in and really just maximize this and not spread myself too thin. I realized I was trying to do too many things. But this is a first five place to look. The Nats bullpen's terrible. There's no math behind that other than just the model says there's some value in the Nats. That's a full game. Knowing their bullpen stinks and the Braves bullpen's really good. A first five could be a good way to look. I like the first five plus a half run. I haven't analyzed enough to know if I like it because I think it wins more because my brain likes the tie win, but are we getting good odds for that? That's where we need to do the analytics and figure that. I don't know. So I don't even know where to recommend each one because I don't have the math to know, but I don't know. Nats plus a half run in the first five seems like it might be as good or as good of an option as that A grade full game that we ended up playing last night. The fourth game at this time slot is the one that will almost assuredly not happen. It might already be canceled, or by the time you're watching it, it might. I always give a huge shout out to friend of the show, and I think I could say that because we interact on Twitter, right? Kevin Roth, and we've talked about his weather forecast and how I believe I'm an expert in a lot of what I do, and I trust other people to be an expert in what they do. And with that said, I don't think I've ever seen a comment from him on a game that says the first sentence is only the word nope. So it sounds like this is going to be right out, and there's no point in talking about it. He says, unless something dramatically changes in the modeling between now and game time, it's a no. So I want to talk real quick about this, but it sounds like this game's not going to happen here, and that'll end up being part of a makeup somewhere. But if it were to happen, we have it looks like no official pick on the game, thankfully. So we don't have to worry about it. But if it is Cade Povich and Lucas Giolito, two starters that we kind of just say are average, two sets of relievers that are decent, two offenses that are average, you kind of got a bunch of just back and forth. Who knows? We're leaning Red Sox because they're home. Would be the only way to think about that. Strong wind blowing in. That's because of the rain. That's going to make this game not happen, but make it for a total here in the we were thinking more in the mid eights as the weather's looking worse now this morning in the low eights. But again, I don't think it's going to matter or happen. No official pick, and probably a game that's not going to happen again. I'm not sure I've ever seen our favorite weatherman ever be so confident in a game not happening, which will wrap us up here with the Mariners and the Astros at 8:10 p.m. Eastern. George Kirby making his season debut for the Mariners. Lance McCullers Jr. Unfortunately still pitching for the Astros, last pitcher in baseball. I've loved McCullers, obviously, as an Astros fan, and what he did, for the team in 2017 with him and Morton piggybacking. And at the time when he threw like 30 straight curveballs to the Yankees or whatever, and they were complaining about the Astros cheating. I'm like, a dude threw like nothing but curveballs to y'all, and y'all literally couldn't touch the ball, and you're worried about like cheating because like you can't score. Anyway, unfortunately, the injuries with him, it's just not been good. And I'm going to asterisk him because a lot of times a pitcher will be given a 130 grade and you'll see a ranking like that and you're like, fade. And I'm not saying you shouldn't. The official play on this one that we had was under 8.5. It's only an honorable mention. I don't love that we're not getting the push protection on 9. I don't love the fact that the Mariners offense is decent, number 10. And facing a guy like McCullers, it could really blow up. And so, I'm afraid of the Mariners scoring a bunch of runs. If you are like that, you look at the Mariners. I don't think it's a crazy play. It's not an official play, only a B grade here. It was minus 133 last night, minus 132 this morning. The threshold's minus 120, so we're probably not going to get there. But if you're more worried about McCullers, more worried about the Mariners offense scoring a bunch of runs than the under, that's a way to kind of split your liability a little bit. But my asterisk about McCullers, he's only been a few starts, and he's had the stuff. I don't know if he's going to find it. You never know with these injury things. You see a guy like Flaherty come back, or like Chris Sale, right? And it's like, man, it's like he didn't even skip a beat. He might even be better than he was before. But then for every story like that, there's 100 others. And so I don't know. What the model's saying is right now it's not there. And I just want to caution people that there's a difference between, if the model were to say that about most pitchers, right now it's not there, you would say, I don't know what's going to change tomorrow. And I feel very confident about that projection going forward. With McCullers, the answer is very easy. What's going to change is he's recovering from injury. He hasn't pitched in a long time. And at some point, he might figure it out again. So that's just kind of your caution there on McCullers, especially as an Astros fan, knowing the situation. I'm not backing McCullers until I see it. But I'm not heavy fading him until I feel like it's for sure not back. I'm kind of just saying sometimes not making a losing bet is a win, right? And so I'm playing the under 8.5. Model says, upper sevens. And, it's Kirby's first start, but, he's been really good. The relievers for the Mariners are really turning it around and looking sharp again. Relievers for the Astros are somehow now turning into like their strong suit, which is just makes me want to throw up because I don't really love their bullpen that much, but here we are. And so all that to say, I think you could go worse playing the Mariners at a price like that. I don't want to play like minus 150, but minus 130, minus 135. It's worth a sprinkle if you want to. It's not an official pick. The under 8.5 is 9 would be better. Or another thing you could look at here, like we talked about before, is the Astros team total under and say, I want to remove the possibility of the Mariners scoring 8 themselves and winning 8-1, and say, hey, Astros offense is just meh. Mariners relievers good. Don't know what you're going to get on Kirby at his first start, but it's not like he's missed like the time that McCullers has, right? So he could have a very good start here, and it wouldn't shock anybody. And even if he's on a pitch count, which I don't know if he is, then those relievers are coming in there. So I kind of think the Astros are going to have a hard time scoring, and that's where I'm kind of going with the under or the Mariners. You could flip that. Someone here I just saw in the comment about the Mariners over. You can kind of flip that and go that way too. If you're going to do an over, I wouldn't do the game over, but Mariners team total over isn't crazy because, again, I'm not running to fade McCullers heavily. I wouldn't be, but if you want to fade him right now, I don't think that's crazy. Like until he shows it and just kind of say I'm going to ride it. But all I'm trying to say is I wouldn't like 5-unit ride it kind of craziness, 2-unit ride. I just 1-unit ride it each time and just kind of slowly collect your money. It's kind of like, if you play at the craps table, right? And you put, your $6 or whatever on the, on the 6 and the 8. And then you just, you're just kind of, and it's fun. And someone just rolls forever. And you're just kind of like, yeah, I'll just take my $5, take more $5, take my $5. It's kind of what you could be doing there. And if you were going that way, your angle would be either just playing the Mariners or the Mariners team total over. Or again, I would go full game. So a lot of ways you can go with this game. That'll do it here for our 8.5 game slate. If there are more questions, of course, hit me up on Discord and we'll talk about them. Games will get going here shortly. So a little bit of a shorter show here. Hopefully we will get this out to everybody who wasn't able to watch it live. If you weren't, check it out for next time. We are 10 a.m. Mondays and Thursdays, 10 a.m. Eastern time, Mondays and Thursdays. And at least for now, Mondays, we will be joined with Cousin Jared, who with the larger Monday slates and the Monday night games, no day games, we can do a little bit of a longer show. We'll do quicker ones here Thursday. So settling in here for a lot of good things, a lot of excitement coming here. And so that will wrap us up here, though, officially. We do thank you, as always, so much for watching. We do wish you the best of luck, as always, and remind you that every sports bettor wins a lot and loses a lot, but with the right teacher, you can win more when you win